Yo, here's that beautiful face again. Welcome back. Today we're switching it up. It's my channel, I can do whatever the heck I want. And today we're gonna do some history, okay? If you couldn't tell from my appearance, a little bit of a history buff. I think I got one today that you guys are gonna enjoy. Today, we're gonna go over the Star Spangled Banner and the story behind our nation's national anthem. I'm sure all of you have been to football games, to baseball games, wherever, and have heard it, have sang the words, but don't really understand the story behind it and why the heck it's our country's national anthem in the first place. So I'm gonna drop some knowledge on y'all today. So here we go. So for context, we are in the War of 1812. I don't like to say this typically, but we were kind of getting our butts beat by the Brits. They were kind of kicking our ass. And because of the length of the war, prisoners had been captured on both sides. So the US government asked this lawyer from Maryland, Francis Scott Keyes, if he would go out to the British admiral on his ship, which was about 1,000 miles off the shore, right off of Fort Henry, and asked him to do a prisoner exchange. So Francis Scott Key gets in his rowboat, he rows his little self out there, he gets out there, he talks to the admiral, and they come to an agreement, a 1-for-1 exchange. So for every one American prisoner, the Brits get one of their British prisoners. So we make the exchange. Francis Scott Key, he's stoked. Well, awesome, woohoo, right? He goes down into the brig on the ship where the British are keeping the American prisoners, and he sees a cargo hold full of men. The whole bottom of the boat is just filled with men, raggedy, gross, smell bad. They're all packed like sardines in the bottom of this boat. And he tells those men, he says, men, today you are free. I just agreed with the admiral, we agreed to terms, and you're free. You get to come home. You get to get back out of here. So they're super excited. So Francis goes back up to the top of the boat, and the admiral comes to him, and he says, listen, I just made this deal. I'm going to honor the deal that I made with you, but after tonight, it's just going to be semantics. You guys are going to be British subjects again. Francis is like, what do you mean we're going to be British subjects again? And he says, look out onto the horizon. So Francis turns around and he looks out onto the horizon, and all he sees is little dots. The whole British war fleet was convening with the admiral for Fort Henry. They gave Fort Henry an ultimatum. They said, we are going to wipe this off of the face of the earth unless you surrender. And Francis was freaking out. He's like, you can't do that. That fort it's a large fort, yes. It's a military fort, yes. But it has primarily women and children. It's mostly families. It's not just a military fort. The admiral says, don't worry, we gave them an out. And he was like, so what's the out? And he says, see the rampart hanging up over the fort with the flag on it, waving high? Francis Scott is like, yes, obviously I see it. He says, all we told them to do is just take the flag down the rampart flagpole. That's all they have to do. And then that we'll see as a surrender, and we will stop firing. But until then, every single one of these ships, which will be here in about 2.5 hours, will have their guns trained on the fort until that happens. So Francis, hearing that is like, okay, that's crazy. He goes back down and he tells the men. And he says, men, I'll let you know throughout the night what happens. I'll keep you updated. So by the time of sunset, around this time, there's a haze over the water, and all the British ships show up. They're in place. They start firing. And all throughout the night, all you could hear was boom, boom, boom. These giant cannonades, these mortars. I mean, the best of the best. We're talking about the British war fleet in 1812, the most OP navy besides us, later obviously, but besides us, the most OP navy of all time, right? These guys literally stopped slavery by themselves 3 years later, and the slave trade. And they are firing on Fort Henry. But the flag does not go down. The admiral starts to get mad. Francis is obviously still on the boat with him throughout the night. And he says, "What? You people are crazy. We've been firing on this fort, and the flag is still there. I don't even understand how the flag could still be there, because we've been firing nothing but nonstop shells on it. And Francis relays the message down to the men, and the men just keep praying and praying and praying that the flag holds. Fast forward, the admiral's getting very angry, very, very angry. And he says, you know what? Every single cannon, mortar, every single gun that I have will be trained exactly on the rampart, right at the flag. We will blow the thing to dust. It will not be a flag anymore. No flagpole, no nothing. We're going to blow it up. And they do that and shell throughout the night. In the morning, the cannons stop. There's a haze, there's a fog over the land, but it wasn't high enough. The rampart was just high enough to where they could see, and the flag was still there. So Francis, seeing that, tells the men, hops in his rowboat, rows himself back to shore, and runs into Fort Henry, because he has to see how this flagpole stayed on this rampart all night while getting shelled by the British war fleet. And the flagpole's at like this crazy bent angle. The flag itself is tattered, but it's still on there. And Francis has to go see. So Francis walks into the fort, and he finds out the reason why the flag and the flagpole did not fall. What he saw was a stack of human bodies, of husbands, brothers, uncles, nephews, cousins, that one of them would hold the flagpole in place. And then, obviously, when the cannons and the mortars hit him, and he would, rest in peace, blow up, another man would step up in line, move his body, take his place holding the flagpole on the rampart. And that's the reason why the flag stayed up. It was because of the human spirit of these men that would not allow that flag to fall. And I think this tells us two things, and this is why I chose this today, because I think it tells us two things. I think, one, America's got the best national anthem by far out of any country. Anyone who doesn't think that is either A, not an American, or B, a turncoat, right? America, number one national anthem, for sure. And I think the second reason is, too, why it's so important is because, a lot of times, myself included, I can't tell you, probably my entire life, you say one thing, you say you're going to do things, you say one thing, but when the bombs start bursting in air, are you grabbing the flagpole? And not just like for America, right? But just in general, if you believe in certain morals and principles, and push comes to shove, and there's things that are butting up against your morals and principles, what are you going to do? Will your words, what you say you believe in, align with your actions and what you actually do? And I think this is one of those where, after I first heard this story, I thought to myself, would I have grabbed that flagpole? Would I have stood there and held that, knowing for sure that I was going to die? I mean, these guys knew they were going to die, and they did it anyway. They went up there, they didn't say anything, and they just did it. And I think it teaches us an important lesson in our lives, that just like Christ, we have to match our words, our morals, our principles, what we believe in our hearts, what we believe is true. We need to match those with our actions in our day, right? Because no one's going to believe our words if our actions don't follow. So I'm going to leave you guys with the verse of the day, and then we'll get back at it tomorrow. I think today's ties in perfectly. We're leaving Paul in his letters, and we're going to go to Jesus. John 15:13. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. I love all of you so much. Go out there and align your actions with your words, and I will try to do the same. Have a great day. Do something good.